as a collective, how can we focus our imagination? How can we focus our attention, our efforts in the directions that are most valuable? I do feel compelled in this season of my life to be the PR rep for discipline, okay? Baby girl needs a image rehabilitation, and I've decided to be the one to do it. So yeah, I want to talk about queering discipline, and I'm pulling from many sources. I'm pulling from thoughts, quotes, books, conversations I had with people 8 years ago. I'm pulling from so many things, so many sources right now, and I just want to name that and honor that. Specifically because I'm not going to be able to exactly like match each idea with where I got it from, because I'm synthesizing so many different things. However, one thing that is for certain is the definition of queer that I'm using in this context. I'm referring to Bell Hooks's definition of queer. Queer, not as being about who you're having sex with, that can be a dimension of it, but queer as being about the self that is at odds with everything around it and that has to invent and create and find a place to speak and to thrive and to live. That's the type of queer that I'm referring to when I say queering discipline. I want to discuss the sort of dominant perception of discipline as I see it, and what discipline can look like, can feel like, can manifest as if we freak it, if we queer it, if we orient discipline around ourselves as opposed to experiencing it as an external pressure that we have to submit to. And actually, I need to back up a little bit and explain why I'm even fixating on discipline right now. And the reason is because I was thinking a lot about the Montgomery bus boycott. I was asking myself, do I have the stamina to commit to a boycott like that? Talking to my peers, and I'm looking around at the internet landscape. We just don't have the stamina, the emotional or the psychological stamina to commit to inconvenience of such a high degree as we are and as we must remake the world. I feel that it is imperative that we develop discipline, like socially. I think that, and when I say we, I'm talking to my generation, I'm talking to anyone who is invested in reshaping the world. Have you ever tried building a world before? It requires a lot, and it requires focused attention, it requires strategic action, and it requires commitment. And I'm saying we because truly, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I don't have the stamina to be inconvenienced to that degree for 3 years. I know that today. And I want to build that stamina. I want to build that level of discipline and that level of commitment so that I am actually ready to contribute to the world-making effort. Okay, well, I didn't realize that I was gonna need to get that far into it, but I'm glad that I did. How can you craft a system of discipline that honors you so deeply, so specific to how you move and operate, that you can uphold it forever or until your next evolution requires that you shift it again? I want us in the practice of examining existing systems and figuring out how to freak it so that it works for us. And not every system we should be trying to make work for us. But I do think discipline is one that is really valuable to hold, because when you have the stamina and the focus and the grit to hold on to a vision and move towards a vision with a level of commitment that says, like, it doesn't matter how long it takes, this is what I'm doing, the world bends for you. And that's what I've seen in my many years of kind of implementing the system. So I wanted to share 3 points of entry that I used to initially queer discipline. The first being I looked at it through the lens of my values and how I could shape it for myself. The second was I looked at the rhythm of discipline as a method of queering. And then the third was essentially I made discipline into a spiritual practice instead of a material one. And I'm going to explain that more later in the video, but also in another video. There are many more ways to do it, but I just wanted to give a few tangible examples. The first is queering discipline in terms of shaping the discipline around your values. So you are not shaping your values around whatever concept of discipline you've been given or inherited, but instead holding firm in your values, in your center, and saying, how can discipline elevate what I'm trying to do? How can discipline honor what I value, what I think is important, and get me to the next step? Right now, I feel like the way that discipline is used, or the function of discipline in the kind of dominant context, is more or less it's to make capital, right? It's like you embody this form of discipline so that you can be a better participant in capitalism. That's how a lot of people are talking about it. That's how I was talking about it for a while. But when I look at queering discipline, I think about it as like, okay, if I am at the center of my efforts, how do I format discipline so that it is honoring my center, that it honors what is true for me, rather than trying to replicate a system that is apathetic to you, just completely, like it doesn't care. It's not even, I mean, in some cases it is antagonistic, but I would say that that is ultimately like has nothing to do with you. No part of you was considered in the creation of that system of discipline. And I say this again, not necessarily saying that we shouldn't try to commit to things every day. And I'm not villainizing consistency, but I'm aware of how wavy wiggly we are as beings. The point is, I just want you to take into account what you're actually moving towards, and then ask yourself if the way you're interacting with discipline has anything to do with you. Like, who you are right now today. But if you are who I'm trying to reach, the thing that you're seeking, the world that you want to build, or the business you're trying to create, the livelihood that you're trying to manifest, it's probably not something that you have seen before. You've seen people with pieces of it, and you're like, oh, I like this part, I like this part. But for the most part, the thing that you're trying to build is you haven't seen someone else who's doing exactly that. And so the idea that you can follow someone else's steps to get to your thing is silly. Like when you sit and you think of it in that way, it's not realistic. Right? Let's be pragmatic for a second, because I don't know if I'm being like flowery here, but if you're trying to build a machine that you've never seen before and nobody else has ever built this machine, why do you think the schematics to somebody else's machine is going to suddenly become the thing that's in your imagination? And really what this comes down to is like having true priorities, truly understanding your priorities, and also being okay with being your own blueprint. Another kind of principle or method of queering discipline is asking the question, like, what do you currently believe about it? And then just doing the opposite. Just doing the opposite, just to try it. Because experimentation is inherently baked into like everything I've ever said, every video I've ever made, even the ones that I don't agree with anymore. Experimentation has always been baked in, right? So part of that experimentation is like ask the question and then be like, all right, well, what happens if I go over here? So if you currently perceive discipline as a linear movement forward, what happens if you were to, again, freak it and be like, well, what does discipline look like if it's organized in cycles? What does discipline look like if it's organized with chunks of time where we're actually going backwards? Like, what if we specifically make discipline a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing? I'm just offering ideas, right? I'm not saying that they're good, and I'm not saying that they're gonna fix everything. I'm just saying part of my personal process of queering discipline was just doing things that didn't make sense based off of my, at the time, current beliefs. And just doing things in exactly the quote unquote wrong order, or the exact opposite of what I've been taught was real or true about discipline, just to see what happens. Okay? So get queer, get weird, literally get freaky. Like, try and just mess around about it. What if discipline is actually just standing still? Do you know how hard it is to actually be still and to be bored right now in the year of the internet 2025? It requires incredible discipline to be still on purpose. My previous perception of discipline was you're always on. And I was like, well, actually, what if discipline is standing still and letting things pass you by and just kind of looking and being like, oh, is that what, wait. Is that where we're going? Just do the thing that seems wrong. Do the thing that seems like that is the exact opposite of what has felt good. Or it doesn't even have to be the exact opposite. Just do a thing that is kind of sideways to what you thought was true, or what you currently think is true. With this particular method, what you're querying about discipline is the rhythm of it. And just thinking about different ways, different rhythms that could be possible or exciting or useful in the context of discipline. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, this one may or may not apply to everybody, but for me, when I interacted with discipline as a spiritual practice instead of a material one, and I just took the time to kind of think, what if discipline was about my spirit and not about what I could do? A lot changed. And I want to dig deeper into that, and I will, but I'm doing it in another video. For now, I just want you to think about whatever plane of existence you think discipline is on. What if it was one above or one below? And I understand that some people are going to be able to get that and some people aren't, and that's okay. I'm willing to hold that responsibility. Again, thinking about queering discipline as a practice of shaping discipline for your needs, for who you are right now, for what is true today, as opposed to trying to shape yourself to meet someone else's definition or system of discipline. And the 3 methods or the 3 entry points that I used to kind of come at and reshape my relationship with discipline was to think about the end point of discipline, right? So to think about, is this towards my values or is it not? To think about the rhythm of discipline. How could I change the cadence? How could I shape this in non-linear ways? And then the third thing was, what if this was a practice that was not about action, but instead about spirit, or instead about the body, or instead about the mind, right? There's so many layers, I think, that are possible when you try to hold discipline in a different context than you previously were. If you're interested in how to elevate discipline to a spiritual practice, you can check out this video right here. Thank you for watching. Shout out to you. Based on random